The ivory wedding invitation seemed far too heavy for simple cardstock as I stared at the raised gold lettering announcing Jessica's lavish dream wedding at the Ritz-Carlton. Beneath the elegant script, someone had written in my mother's unmistakable looping handwriting, "Dylan's business contribution, $300,000. Family meeting Sunday 2 p.m. to finalize details." My business contribution, as if Apex Solutions, the software consulting company I had built from nothing over 8 years, were just a family piggy bank waiting to be smashed open for my sister's Fairytale wedding. That Sunday, I stepped into my parents' living room to find the entire extended family gathered like a corporate board meeting, complete with printed spreadsheets and calculators spread across the table. Jessica sat at the head in a white sundress, glowing with bridal excitement, while her fiancé Brad nodded along to whatever financial fantasy they'd created together. "There's our entrepreneur," Dad announced as I walked in, his voice carrying the same patronizing cheer he usually reserved for kids running lemonade stands. "Ready to talk about how your little computer business can help make Jessica's dreams come true?" My little computer business, the same little company that had brought in $47 million in revenue last year, operating across 12 states with 340 employees. But in their eyes, I was still the kid who dropped out of college to mess around with websites in his bedroom. "We've done the math," Mom said, sliding a handwritten budget across the coffee table. "The venue, catering, flowers, photography, the dress, everything Jessica deserves for her special day comes to exactly $298,000. Your business can easily cover that." Easily cover that. They had calculated down to the dollar what they expected from me, without any real understanding of how business finances actually worked. "Mom," I said carefully, "business revenue isn't the same as personal spending money. There are employees to pay, overhead costs, taxes." "Details," Uncle Mike interrupted with a dismissive wave. "What matters is family supporting family. Jessica only gets married once. And besides," Aunt Carol added, "it's not like you have a real family to spend money on. No wife, no kids. What else are you going to do with all that computer money?" Computer money. The phrase they always used whenever my income came up, as if software consulting were somehow less legitimate than Brad selling luxury cars. "The way I see it," Dad said, leaning back into his leather recliner, "this is an investment in family happiness. Jessica's wedding will be something we all remember forever. An investment in family happiness, from the same family that had missed every major milestone of my company's growth. Landing my first corporate client. Opening regional offices. Making the Inc. 5000 list 3 years in a row. What exactly are you asking me to do?" I asked, even though I already suspected the answer. "Simple," Mom replied, sliding another document across the table. "You sign over the business assets to pay for the wedding. Jessica gets her dream day, and you get the satisfaction of knowing you made it happen." Sign over the business assets. They wanted me to liquidate 8 years of work, lay off 340 employees, and destroy a company worth $67 million so Jessica could have white roses instead of pink ones. "That would mean shutting down Apex Solutions completely," I said quietly. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," Jessica laughed. "You can always start another little computer business later. You're still young, you'll figure something else out." What they didn't know was that Wednesday was already scheduled. At 2 p.m., I had a meeting with my CFO to finalize our series of funding round, a $45 million investment that would value Apex Solutions at $180 million. "I'll give you my answer Wednesday," I said, turning toward the door. "Wednesday." Jessica's voice jumped nearly to a shriek. "Dylan, we need to put deposits down." "Wednesday," I repeated, stepping out into the cool evening air. What they also didn't know was that I had asked my CFO to prepare a full financial presentation outlining the company's real value. Because if they wanted to treat my little computer business like a family ATM, they were going to understand exactly what they were asking me to destroy. The 3 days between Sunday's family meeting and Wednesday's reckoning felt like the longest week of my life. My phone buzzed non-stop with wedding updates, vendor confirmations, and excited messages from relatives who had been given permission to spend money they assumed I was about to provide. "Booked the string quartet," Jessica texted Monday morning, followed by photos of musicians who charged more per hour than most people earned in a week. They played at the governor's daughter's wedding. Confirmed the ice sculpture, Mom posted in the family group chat. It's going to be a swan holding our family crest. The artist says it'll take 40 hours to carve. A family crest. We didn't even have one. Apparently, Mom had paid a graphic designer $800 to invent it, then another $3,200 to have it carved in ice, all funded by the liquidation of my company. The photographer wants to do an engagement shoot at the Botanical Gardens this weekend, Brad chimed in. Extra photos for the reception slideshow. Dylan, you should come, family photos with the person who made all this possible. By Tuesday, the family's excitement had reached a fever pitch. Uncle Mike called to brag about how he'd told his golf buddies that his nephew's successful computer company was paying for an over-the-top wedding. I'm so proud of how generous you're being, Mom said during one of her daily check-in calls. This is what family means, supporting each other's dreams. Supporting one another's ambitions. I found myself wondering when anyone had ever asked about my ambitions, or whether tearing apart my company might clash with the future I was trying to build. What they never saw were the emails from staff who'd heard whispers of restructuring. Sarah, our lead developer, had been with us for 6 years and had just purchased her first home. Marcus in accounting had welcomed a newborn. Jennifer in client relations had turned down offers from competitors because she believed in what we were building. 340 people whose livelihoods rested on choices I was supposedly making based on flower colors. Dylan. Jessica called Tuesday evening, out of breath with excitement. She said she'd just had the most incredible meeting with the wedding planner. The planner had shown her photos from a $500,000 Beverly Hills wedding and believed we could recreate the same aesthetic within our budget. Wednesday morning arrived with cool autumn air that made big decisions feel unavoidable. At 1:30 p.m., I met my CFO, Margaret Chin, in my parents' driveway. At 55, Margaret carried authority through calm precision and deep financial knowledge that had helped grow Apex Solutions from a one-person startup into a multimillion-dollar company. Are you certain about this strategy? She asked, giving the presentation materials one last review. They want to make an informed choice about my business assets, I said. I'm just ensuring they have the full picture. We walked to the front door exactly at 2 p.m. Through the window, I saw the same family gathering from Sunday, now expanded with extra witnesses to observe my so-called generosity. There he is, Mom announced as we stepped inside. Our generous boy and his financial advisor. Margaret moved forward with polished professionalism. I'm Margaret Chin, Chief Financial Officer of Apex Solutions. Dylan asked me to present information about the company's current standing. Wonderful, Dad said, motioning toward the dining room. We're eager to hear how the liquidation will work. Margaret and I exchanged a glance. They'd already moved past asking for money. They assumed I was shutting the company down and wanted to know the mechanics. Before we talk about any changes to the company's structure, Margaret said, opening her laptop, I thought you'd want to understand what Apex Solutions truly represents. Thursday afternoon was about to become very educational. The room went silent as Margaret's first slide lit up the screen with figures that seemed to grow heavier as the family absorbed them. Apex Solutions' current annual revenue, $47.2 million, Margaret read, her voice steady with 3 decades of financial authority. Net profit margin, 23.7%. Current valuation, based on our most recent funding round, $180 million. Dad's coffee cup stopped midway to his mouth. Jessica's wedding binder slipped from her hands and hit the floor. I'm sorry, Mom said carefully. Did you say million? Yes, Margaret replied, advancing to the next slide, which showed 8 years of revenue growth. Dylan built this company from zero to nearly $50 million a year. We are now the 3rd largest software consulting firm in this region. Uncle Mike leaned forward, squinting at the screen. But it's just computer stuff, right? Margaret clicked again, revealing our client list. Our computer stuff includes enterprise software for healthcare systems, financial institutions, and government agencies. We process over $2 billion in transactions each year. The family stared as if she were speaking another language. This slide shows our employee structure, Margaret continued, pulling up an organizational chart. 340 full-time employees across 12 offices. Average salary, $78,000. Total annual payroll, $26.5 million. 340 employees. Aunt Carol whispered. Yes, Margaret said. People with families, mortgages, and children in college. When Dylan asked me to prepare a presentation about liquidating business assets, I wanted everyone to understand what that really means. She advanced to a slide titled Economic Impact of Closure. Dissolving Apex Solutions would immediately eliminate 340 jobs, cancel contracts worth $23 million annually, and destroy intellectual property valued at $45 million. The first-year economic impact alone would exceed $78 million. Jessica finally spoke up. But Dylan said it was a small business. I thought it was just him and maybe a couple of people. Dylan has always been modest, Margaret replied. He's built one of the most successful software companies in the state while living a lifestyle that doesn't reflect his true net worth. She clicked to the next slide. Personal financial position. Dylan Hartwell. Current personal net worth, $34 million. Annual earnings, $8.7 million. Liquid funds available for personal use, $12 million. The figures lingered in the room like financial smoke clouds. $12 million in accessible cash, Margaret went on. Which means Dylan could cover your wedding costs multiple times over without impacting company operations in any way. Mom's face drained of color. Dylan, why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? I asked softly. That my small tech company employs more people than Dad's old factory ever did. That shutting it down would wipe out the financial stability of hundreds of families. Margaret moved to her final slide. Recommended course of action. Based on the family's request to liquidate $300,000 in company assets, I've outlined 3 options. Option 1. Dissolve the business, eliminate 340 jobs, erase $180 million in shareholder value, and use the remaining funds for wedding expenses. The family shifted uneasily. Option 2. Dylan funds the wedding using personal assets, preserves all jobs, and allows the business to continue growing. Option 3. Dylan reinvests the $300,000 into expansion, creates 40 new jobs, and the family secures alternate wedding financing. Jessica's face fell apart. So you're not paying for my wedding? I was still trying to absorb the fact that my own family wanted me to destroy everything I'd built and put hundreds of people out of work so you could have ice sculptures and crystal centerpieces. 3 weeks later, I sat in my office reading the wedding announcement in the Sunday paper. Jessica Hartwell and Brad Morrison were married in an intimate ceremony at Riverside Gardens, surrounded by close family and friends. Intimate ceremony. Meaning they scaled back from the Ritz-Carlton to a local venue that cost $30,000 instead of $300,000. In the end, I chose option 4, one Margaret hadn't included in her presentation. I gave Jessica $50,000 as a wedding gift, enough for a beautiful celebration without destroying anyone's livelihood. The remaining $250,000 went toward expanding our employee benefits and launching a college scholarship fund. The family's reaction. Margaret asked as she walked in with her usual reports. Mixed. Jessica sent a thank you card saying the wedding was perfect and apologizing for not understanding before. Mom and Dad are still coming to terms with the fact that their unsuccessful son built a company larger than anything they imagined. As for the rest, Uncle Mike keeps asking for investment advice. Aunt Carol wants to know if we're hiring. Brad applied for a position in our sales department. That evening, I attended our weekly company meeting, where we announced expansion plans, 40 new roles, improved benefits, and the scholarship program to help employees' children chase their dreams without crushing debt. Afterward, Sarah from development came up to me. I heard about the family situation. Thank you for choosing us. I didn't choose you over them, I said. I chose responsibility over convenience. My phone buzzed with a message from Jessica. Saw the article about your scholarship fund. I'm proud of you, big brother. Thanks for teaching me the difference between dreams and delusions. For the first time in months, it felt like a message from family who actually knew who I was. Sometimes the most generous thing you can do is refuse to enable people's worst assumptions about both themselves and